If you're in your 40s or 50s and you've been thinking about making a career change, there's a good chance that you've talked yourself out of it at least once, because the fear that comes with making that type of decision is real. Chances are you're not afraid of change in general. You might be afraid of change at this particular time in your career. You might have spent 15, 20, 25 years building your career, your professional experience, and your compensation level as well. And the idea of walking away from all of that and starting over somewhere new might feel like you're just throwing everything away. So you stay. You stay maybe in a role that's no longer feeling fulfilling, that's draining you, maybe even staying in a toxic environment. Or you're staying knowing that this is as far as your growth is going to go. You've hit a ceiling, but at least you know what you have, and the alternative might feel like you'd be starting over from ground zero. But maybe there's a little voice in your head that's looking ahead and thinking, could I see myself staying exactly where I am, doing the same thing for the next 10, 15, or even 20 years into the future? If that little voice is there and maybe it's getting louder, this video is for you. I'm Danielle Bradley. I'm a career coach for mid-career professionals, and today I want to talk about this type of a change in mid-career. The reality is that career change fears are often based on a misunderstanding of how career change can work at this time in your career and at the level that you're at. And we'll talk about what that can look like and how that has worked for some of my clients who have made career changes at this time without taking a pay cut or without scaling back their careers in any way. This is important because you don't have to choose between staying somewhere that's wrong for you or not fulfilling anymore and losing everything that you've built. There's a third option that most people never see because they're too focused on the fear and the uncertainty to look for it. So let's talk about the belief that is underneath all of this. Many mid-career professionals who want to change their careers believe that their experience is only valuable in the context that they've built it in. They may think, for instance, that their 20 years in finance only matters in that industry, or that their background in consumer packaged goods only translates to that type of work. They may think that if they want to move into something different, they're asking an employer to take a huge chance on them, as if they were going to hire someone super junior here. And that belief is what makes career change feels like starting over. But this is incorrect. Your experience absolutely transfers to other areas and other industries. But it does require a new skill, and that's the ability to translate how your experience can transfer to a new role or a new industry. So let's talk about transferable skills and what they mean. The term gets thrown around a whole lot, and I see that most people don't know really what to do with their transferable skills. These are not just things that you're good at. They're the specific problems that you've solved, the outcomes you've delivered, and the capabilities that you have built over time. And that is across different contexts and different situations. Let me give you some examples of what that looks like in practice. If you've spent 15 years leading large teams in retail, for example, the leadership capability that you have built here can transfer to different industries. Large organizations in every industry need people that can lead. Or if you've spent your career in operations, for example, the ability to build systems, identify inefficiencies, scale processes, and manage complexity is something that companies across every sector are looking for constantly. Operations expertise does not belong just to one industry, for instance. So the question isn't whether your skills transfer. The question is whether you know how to frame them up in a language that's going to make sense to a new industry, so that a hiring manager in that space is going to understand what you might be able to deliver for them. Another fear that comes up around this area is the fear that you would have to take a pay cut in order to make a transition, pivot into a different industry. The fear is that you'll essentially have to start from ground zero. And I want to address this directly because it's not as inevitable as people might think. When people take pay cuts when they're making a transition, it's usually for one of two reasons. Either they made the transition without a clear strategy, and they ended up accepting whatever was offered because they were not able to successfully position themselves as the problem solver in that new field. Or they moved into a role that was just more junior because they didn't have the ability and the skill to transfer what they had done at the level that they had done for that new space. Both of these are positioning problems, not career change issues. The good news is that this is fixable. When you make a career change with a clear strategy, when you understand which of your skills are going to be valuable in that new space, and when you can articulate your value proposition in a way that's going to make sense to them, then you truly do not have to start at the bottom. You can enter a new field at a level that reflects what you've built to date. So let me walk you through what a strategic career change can look like at this time in your life. The first thing is getting clear on what it is that you want. What type of work do you enjoy doing? What type of culture is important to you? What type of people would you prefer to work with? It's important to identify what we're motivated by and to look at what we want to move towards versus what we want to move away from. Getting specific on what it is that you want to change makes this path much easier. Sometimes the answer is not a full career change. Sometimes it's a strategic lateral move that allows you to get into a space that you are interested in and that may provide further growth opportunity for you. Now, how do you bridge the gap for a new industry? The first thing that you want to focus on is your network. Look to have conversations with people who are already in the industry or the space and the field that you're interested in, and have genuine conversations with them. Not because they're going to necessarily give you a job or help you land your next position, but they will help you better understand the new field and understand the language, the results that they're looking for in that field. And that will give you more credibility and a better understanding of how you might fit. Then when you walk into an interview for that type of industry, you are going to be much more credible. You'll be speaking their language and truly understand what's most important to them. The second important piece, of course, is your resume and your LinkedIn profile. When you're looking to make a career change, it's very important how you position your transferable skills and your experience in a way that will speak to the role that you're going for next. It's really about being focused on where you're going versus where you've been, looking at the pieces that you've done and the results that you've achieved in the past, but with the lens of what they're looking for in that new field that you're targeting. Now let's talk about an example of this. One of my clients came to me after 20 years in the advertising industry. She'd been suddenly laid off, and after thinking about what she wanted to create for her next chapter, she decided she did not want to be in the exact same industry and situation as she was in before. But she was worried that making that change would end up with her losing some seniority. So we worked together on getting clear on what she wanted to create next and really identify how her background best positioned her for that. We rebuilt her resume and her LinkedIn profile, as well as her interview stories that allowed her to position herself as perfectly qualified for what she was going for. She landed a new director role in a completely different context that she had been in, and she was able to do this in 32 days and also landed a significant increase in compensation. She didn't have to start over, she repositioned. If you've been sitting with the feeling that you want to do something different, but you're afraid of what it might cost to get there, start here. Write down what you want your next chapter to look like. Not just the job title or the industry. Think about the work, the type of company, the culture, what you want to be doing exactly. Get as specific as you can. Then look at the last several years of your career and think about the accomplishments that you have achieved that relate to where you want to go next. And ask yourself honestly, are these outcomes specific to my industry, or are they transferable to other areas? My guess is that for most of you, the answer will be yes, 100% transferable. And it's just a question of positioning them accurately. Changing careers at 45, 50, 55 plus doesn't have to mean that you're starting over, and it doesn't have to mean a pay cut either. What it requires is a clear sense of where you're going, with a strategy to position your experience in a way that makes sense in the new context. The experience that you've built in mid-career is extremely valuable. You just have to know how to position it. Subscribe for more advice specifically for mid-career professionals. And if you're exploring a career pivot and would like some support to make it happen, I invite you to book a Get Hired strategy call with us. The link is in the description below. And watch this video next. The real reason companies pass on experienced workers. How to get hired after 50. The link to the video is in the description below as well. I'll see you in the next video.